Welcome to ArtCo Afternoon Arts. Thank you for joining me. My name is Amber Crimmings. I am the art director / cat herder at Deep Ellum Art Company, and we bring these classes to you in your home so that we can create together and so that we can help grow the love for the creative arts, and then also give you some tools in order to work towards making yourself a better and stronger artist, whether it's something that you do in order to grow as an artist when it comes to a small business sense, or just being able to create as an artist at home, because this is something that's intrinsically good for all of us. And so these are great tools that maybe not all of us got or we forgot from school, and so being able to bring these back in is a really good way to get reconnected with the really awesome benefits that creating brings along with it. Hey Bill, hey Linda, happy you're hanging out on this rainy Tuesday. Doobs is excited to get back to some art classes. You see, he likes the pencils with the erasers on the ends. Today is Tuesday. We're going to be working in our art journals. Today's like our art journal kind of therapy day, where we get to play around with things that we think of that are important to us, but then at the same time, we're playing around with creating in multi-mix media so that we can kind of cross all those lanes. Today is a lane crossing day. It's where we're trying to get a couple different things happening at once. And you can see if I pop you down, in my book, you can see that we've already done this. Well, that was an elementary school one. You know, I flip around. I've got stuff in the book that's right side up, sideways, whatever. But this is where we kind of fit in, and we make it a bit of a journal, and we make it a bit of painting. And this is where we kind of play around with different, well, there's potato painting. We did that for a Throwback Thursday. Where we get to play around with some concepts, make some stuff, you know, in different ways, and just kind of get our little things. Like this one, we were thinking about compassion while we were working on those. So there's a lot of different ways that we can take the things that we're feeling, and we could play around with a lot of different ways to create, different personalities when it comes to drawing, right? I like to play around with stuff that's ultra realistic to cartoony. And so these are really fun ways to stretch our creative muscles so that we can become better creators on the fly. You know, when you practice things, it becomes automatic. You practice the bicycle super hard at first, but once the brain makes that connection, it's super hard to forget how to drive a bicycle. So it's a lot like that when it comes to drawing, not much different from writing your name. It's just a matter of practicing out and getting those muscles used to working. I'm going to turn my ringer off, and then we're going to continue on with our class. Today we're talking about grace. Grace is really keeping that calm amidst the conflict. You know, I've got my, let me get this reset here. Our calm amidst the conflict, you know, and I like to look at a lot of quotes when I'm thinking about these things, because I think having words are important. And so this is a really fun way for me to play around really specifically with all of this. So I had a couple quotes that I wrote down, but I think we're gonna go with this one here. The first one, it says, "Extraordinary afflictions are not always the punishment of extraordinary sins, but sometimes the trial of extraordinary graces." And so when we look at things, we really have the choice to frame stuff on, this is horrific, this is an awful situation, and that's all I'm going to focus on. Or we can try to take those situations and try to focus on the positive, because our brain can only handle so much. Science says even in our environment around us and all the things that we do, we really only truly process 20% of that. And that's why when you hear a lot of people say what you focus on is what you will see. Well, that's very true, because your brain can only handle 20%. So if you're aiming that 20% at, say, red cars, you're going to see a lot more red cars. If you're aiming that 20% at frustration and anger, you're going to find more things that frustrate and anger you, right? And so what we want to try to do is, it's really not about positive fake thinking, but it's more like focusing on where successes can lie, or where little joys can live in each day, or where opportunity can exist in all the crumble and cracks that might be happening around you. And so controlling that 20% sometimes is really, really important for us. And part of being able to do that is retaining grace. I'm really big on mixing our, logical thinking along with our creative. Obviously, we were made to use both at the same time because they both exist in our brain, right? They're made to work together. We're not made to keep creativity in a box where that's only for the weird artists that do things and then everybody else is the logical. No, our brains were made to be this way. We were made to think about things out of the box. This is what has created innovation for the entire human race. Has always been pushed forward by somebody coming up with new innovative ideas, and that really all breaks down to that right side of the brain, that creative side. And so again, these are things that we're working to stretch and use, because sometimes as adults this atrophies, and so we want to work on that. And that creative side really works best when we're not in super high agitated emotional states. Being able to keep ourselves calm does a lot of things for us. I really think one of the biggest things, especially in business, is that it lets us avoid that being 30% dumber when we're agitated and angry and upset. And I'm sure everybody's feeling there's not much room for error these days. So we want to try to keep ourselves as flexible and as strong as possible. Now I'm just going to work on dealing with some shapes in here, and I really think I'm just going to, when I think about me personally, now this is just me rambling like I always do, but when I think about grace and going with things, I think about going with the flow, learning to let go of the things you cannot control and just looking for the best or opportunities within the situations that otherwise may not be the ones that you want to be in. So being able to control that flow, and the flow for me kind of feels like a windy river, and so I think I'm going to go with that idea, but just in an abstract sense. So I think I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm going to create, I don't know, like this windy river kind of shape. I'm going to go back and add some more stuff in here, but I just want to kind of get some basic things down. That way I know when I go in to work on this, I know that I've already got a really nice kind of layout. What I also like to think about Grace is my grandmother, because to me she was always the graceful matriarch. And so I'm just gonna throw some little lace type things on here, just playing around. And I'm doing this in pencil again because I'm not quite sure what I want to do with this. Remember, we're working on mixed media, and remember, just because I'm working on this quote and I'm working on this image, remember that doesn't necessarily mean that you are. We are working on these concepts, and the whole point of art journaling is to have them apply to you. So to me, that idea of grace and keeping calm and always working towards betterment, these are things that make me think of winding rivers, but it may make you think of something totally, completely different. I've got another quote, Bill, for Grace. I didn't put this one because it's got a lot more words, so it might be harder to do. This one's by Paul Murray, and it says, "Life makes fools of all of us sooner or later. But keep your sense of humor, and you'll at least be able to take your humiliations with some measure of grace. In the end, it's our own expectations that crush us." It's quite true. I think that's a great quote too, and one of the great things that my dad and my parents have shown me throughout their life too is that, being able to be resilient really is more about being able to think outside of that box, and also be able to stay calm and keep that sense of humor about the journey as you're in it, even if you're in the thick of a storm, because storms come and go. You know, I was lamenting to my father about some things not too long ago, and he reminded, you know, because we're all worried about Corona and the effects, especially, you know, as an entertainment venue. You know, and he told me we'd figure out our way, and, you know, it's that resiliency. He reminded me of him restarting life at around his 40s, and how he, you know, survived and rebuilt. And, you know, those are great lessons to watch and see and have parents speak. And if you don't have somebody in your life that does that for you, I hope that I'm able to help fill that hole with my strange ramblings, because I know that I was, you know, particularly lucky in that I have parents that are much like that. Okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start kind of just throwing some color in. I don't think I want to do a bunch of painting today. I might do a little bit on it, but I think I'm just going to start with some dry media now, and I'm just going to play around with some color pencils because I want to get some color on here now that I've got framework as I'm thinking about this idea of grace. So I'm going to pop you guys back down. You can kind of see I've got my whole box. Remember, I've got kids and we've accumulated colored pencils. I'm not using, again, this is for, you know, this is for my art journal, so I'm not going to be too terribly rough on myself here. And so I'm just going to start using colored pencils in order to get some color in here. And I'm going to fade this out because I want it to fade out into, I don't know, is that a lighter color? Yeah, it's a lighter version of that blue. Not much lighter though. I'm going to get a nice little orange color. Well, I'll stick with this. Olive color will be a good transition. And I'm going to get this to start transitioning into other colors. I'm just kind of following around my pencil marks here. I'm not trying to be too terribly set on them, but I am trying to make sure I do some color gradation shifts. So you see how I'm starting to kind of get these to work. Remember, as I'm working on these, it's gonna look a little awkward at first. You're gonna go through the awkward teenage phase, and that's okay, y'all. It's okay. You'll be okay as we work and go through this. So I'm just gonna go in, and I'm really just throwing a bunch of colors in here. I'm using a lot of blues, because when I think about grace, to me, I also think about calmness. And remember, we talked about the emotions that colors can imbue or add to. Remember, we talked about all these colors that in art history and in our brains as well, we relate to certain things, and they can actually affect us psychologically. Another reminder that when you look at fast food restaurants, notice that a lot of them, even your fast food type restaurants like TGI Fridays, you'll notice a lot of them have the color red. And that's not really by accident, because psychological studies show, and they know this as they implement their logo design, that red actually makes people more agitated, aka they're more likely to move faster, which means they'll come in and they'll leave sooner. They're not going to dilly-dally and hang out. And red actually can make one hungry. Isn't that funny? And so if they've got a lot of red in their environmental design and then their logo, it helps affect how the customer base reacts. Their demographics are more likely to order more food, more likely to eat, get the heck out of there, and then cause that table to become, or that lane to become open again for the next customer. Super fun stuff. Even education, schools, public schools, some of them have teams come in and actually do color coordinations. Studies have shown that shifts in color and design in schools can actually raise testing grades for the entire district and the student body. So there is a lot of power in environmental design and in colors that we use. So just remember that as an artist when you're working on your pieces, that you want to make sure that your color is really part of your thinking process, and when you're choosing those colors, you know, you're trying to pay attention to what does that color, you know, make me feel. I think I'm going to add another opening on both of these. That way I've got more space in there to do some other things. You know, and I'm going to continue to go through. I want a nice contrasting color through here, because I want to get some real nice bright shifts in order to make sure I'm highlighting these. You see how that starts to pop? I'm going to go back through some of this, and I'm actually going to add in some black in order to more fully farm these shapes out. But you know, I'm just working on this kind of lace shape around this because I think it'll look neat. It makes me think of my grandmother. And so I'm really just, you know, taking my color, blend this out. I think I want it to kind of go away at that point. And turn this around, have it go the other way. You know, I'm trying to blend it out, but I'm also not taking forever. Remember, I want to mess with some other mediums on here, and I really don't want it to get too convoluted and too hard for me to mess with. So, you know, I'm just trying to make sure I'm being gentle with my lines, even though I'm working fast, so that I can have a nice even blend out. I'm going to get some bold yellow in here. I'm going to blend this out into my orange. Oh yeah, that'll work wonderfully. You know, I'm just trying to make sure I've got everything nice and covered in here. I'm coloring all my things in and getting a nice design layout through here. I really want a more neutral color. I'm going to stick with one of these. This one's fairly neutral. Oh, I like that. I'm going to stick with that. So I'm just going in, I'm sticking with, you know, my light, my yellow makes me think of happiness, etc. So I like that. I'm going to go with this light peachy color. So I'm just going in, get my colors added so I can get my first layer in here. Remember, we're just playing around with layering and making sure that we get all of this stuff in there. Now, one of the big themes of this, obviously, I've said the word a lot, is grace. So maybe I just want to go ahead and throw kind of like a big kind of block letter of graces in here. So I think I'm going to maybe do it in here. So I'm just going to block these letters out. And I'm not really going to worry too much about them, you know, being perfect. go. That'll kind of work. I don't really like how that looks, but we'll maybe fix this C here in this curve so that it feels like more, there we go. That feels less awkward because now we've got a nice curve down. Oh, I like that better. Okay, so now I've got a nice little layout here. I know when I go to color with my colored pencil, I'm gonna want to stay away from that section, which is fine. Oh, good. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get some, I don't know, maybe do I want to do blue through here? You know, I think I'm gonna do like I don't know, do I have a hot pink somewhere? Let's do a hot pink through there. I think that'll look neat. We'll go around all the letters here. Get a nice hot pink in. Remember, I'm moving kind of fast because I want to make sure, we're already at 3:24, make sure that we've got enough room and time to finish this up. I'm always trying to make sure I'm helping you guys create some beautiful pieces, but then also that we're filling in our time enough. And these things will get, you'll be surprised at how quickly this cleans up once we get to the line work that we might want to add in here. You'd be surprised. I don't have anything else, but I do want to throw green because I think part of grace is growth, and green represents growth to me, so I'm going to throw some green in here. Try to make sure as you're working on this project that you're really trying to think about, again, your color choices. Let's make that an emphasis for this project. You're thinking about what the colors mean to you, you know, and you know, you're trying to make sure that you're conveying those meanings to your viewers. Again, I'm going to think about nice calm waters flowing like rivers and water, so I like throwing in these darker blues. I don't want to darken it up too terribly much, but I think I am going to go through here and I'm going to add my blues in here. Remember, I'm going to go over these with pen as well so that I can deepen and darken these lines, and we may do some paint on top of it. We'll see. Redoing my lace here, or my lace-esque type design that makes me think of my grandmother, who was the grace of the family, grace holder, the mediator. She was the matriarch that held everybody together, right? Alright, so I've got cool little lace here. I've got some grace words going on. Alright, I'm going to get some more of this blue in, but I think I'm going to lighten it up as we go down, so I'm just going to go, oops, I'm going to go back into my lighter blue here, and I'm going to keep this as a theme. I don't know what I'm going to do with these empty spots yet, but we'll play around with them. But I like this. We're going to keep this fairly light because we don't want it to be as dark as the rest of our stuff over here. And we're going to get this all filled in. See, I'm trying to make sure that I'm even in my coloring. You know, I'm going to leave a little bit of this white actually up here. I like how this looks, that little white mixture, so I think that that'll be kind of fun. So we'll just kind of stick with that. And so now really I'm going to start playing around with some, I think I'm going to start playing around with some ink. We'll play around with some ink. How about that? Let's see, what do we have? A 0.4? 0.4 might work. We'll kind of, maybe we'll use this for the river part. Oh, I want it to be thicker than that. What do I have? I have a 0.5. 0.8. Here. We'll stick with the 8 for this one. Oh, there we go. That's much better. This is what I'm going to use for my main outline of things. And now we're going to watch it kind of come to life. I do want to be careful with my hands at this point because I don't want this to end up smudging. So I want to be careful as I'm working around that I'm not smudging the wet ink as I'm working. And so I'm just going to go through and I'm going to do things with intentionality. Just like we can show grace with intentionality. So we want to make sure that we're going through and outlining. I like doing this for my journals. I think it's a fun way to play around with the lettering and the words. It's good to mix up our acts of creativity. Some of the best artists I know mess around with both words and visual pictures. So you see how this is starting to sharpen things up a little bit, and it's really going to start coming to life here. As I start kind of going through and giving all of these details more definition. You know, I'm kind of working backwards to forwards on this. Did you see that? So I knew my plan was to go back on it and line it, but I needed to go through and get my pencils in first. If I had done this with ink first and then did my colored pencils on top, they would have partially obscured some of my ink. And we don't want that to happen. We want this to be the nice, bold finish here. But not finish, but you know what I mean. Well, maybe you don't know what I mean, but we just want to get this line work in before we start adding in the rest of our details. Happy first day of fall. It is a little chilly out there. I had to wear a jacket earlier. I went and did hot yoga this morning, and it was awesome. But man, it was a little chilly outside. I don't know how I feel about that, guys. Like, I am happy to get a reprieve from the hot weather, but I am also, like, a little bit of a whiny child when it comes to the cold, because I don't like it at all. I figure I was stationed in Alaska for 3 years when I was in the Army, and so I kind of like to say that traumatized me on the cold. I'm just a big baby when it comes to being cold. Alright, see how this is really starting to come together? Where are we at? We're at 3:31. Okay, we're not doing too terrible on time. I want to make sure that I'm staying as neat as possible as I'm farming out these images and outlining them. I don't want to get messy. See how fun this is starting to look? Oh, I like this so far. I'm going to get my nice spiral in. And then I've got some cool little triangles that I kind of made off of those. Alright. This is starting to look pretty cool. Okay, so now I can start adding in some more details. I'm going to go in. I'm going to get some nice circles in this section. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And then I am going to go around some of these. What is F? I don't remember what F is, but we're going to go in and I'm going to get these all colored in between. I'm not sure I can hit that with a brush and not mess it up, so I'm going to go through and at least get around my circles. That way I make sure it's a nice clean section. going to start adding some heftier pieces in here. Get my brush out. And get these all colored in. So I get my nice bold black areas. And this will help give more balance to this. See how that really starts to come alive? Yeah, I think this brush might be, well, maybe that will work. I just got to be really gentle in how I touch it to the paper. Oops. Okay. You know, it's also important that we have that grace with ourselves. A lot of us can be a little harsh on ourselves. Sometimes harsher on ourselves than the outside world is. So if you tend to do that, you should stop that right now. Be your own safe harbor. Give yourself grace. That way when you are home in your spot, you know, you can relax because you know that you'll be nice to yourself. And that's important, y'all. Just like it's important what we focus on, it's important how we speak to ourselves. This will also either empower us or drag us down. And so, you know, we definitely want the best for ourselves, I hope. So we want to work on not dragging down, because that's not something that helps. Oh, this is starting to look neat. I'm not terribly hating this, y'all. Quite happy so far. Here, I'm gonna create some, I'm gonna get these guys. I'm just gonna add some fun little dot work through these. Just because it will, I don't know, I think it'll add to it. So we're just kind of playing around with this. I think I am going to thicken up this one a little bit. Now I'm just beefing up some of these, trying to make sure that I've got a strong design here. Again, this is kind of like doodling along with our journal writing. So I'm just kind of trying to make sure I'm practicing with my lines, getting them clean, and with creating clean images. I'm just going to create some separations in here. And I'm going to round them off just a little bit. Again, just enough to shift and change those shapes. Now that makes it for kind of fun, and you see how that's really starting to make these things pop because there's more contrast now between the colored pencils and all of our other details that are starting to show up with, say, our markers. I'm going to go in and add another little bit in here. I think that'll add to these, make them more interesting. And I'm probably going to do this to the other set of lace that I made on the other bend of this line, to me, that represents a river. So I'm just going in, playing with, continuing to put more things and doodles in here so that I can play around with my design principles. We're practicing using materials, so maybe you need practice with paint. If so, use your art journals and make sure that you're adding a little bit with paint in there so that you can get at least a little bit of practice on that medium. Remember, the intention of these art journals and art therapy really is to also make sure that we're playing around with all of the ways that we can create and make things. I'm just going to go ahead and line this out. I think to have large amounts of grace, that takes repetition and practice. So that's why I'm going to lay a bunch of lines around this word to represent all the tick marks for all the practice and the work towards refining how we view things, what we pay attention to and focus on and try to do and accomplish. Hey, that's looking pretty cool, you guys. I'm having fun. I hope that you're having fun making things and hanging out with me as I make things. It's always enjoyable, I think, in order to add all of this stuff. You know, maybe I want to go in and add some of these words in here. I think that that might be a fantastic idea. I'm going to actually tear off part of this. That way I've got a handguard and then I can read the rest of my thing over here. So I'm going to I'm just writing this out. Perhaps you have better handwriting than me. Perhaps you want to play around with calligraphy. Perhaps you want to play around with making, you know, all your words block letters. You can do this in a variety of ways. You don't even have to write on this if you don't want to. There, now I've got the little name to attribute the quote. I've got the quote going around. So now I know here I've got my extra space that I can go in and I can create more design elements in here. So I think first off what I'm going to do is I also want to add some purple in here. I think this is a great representation. I'm going to throw a that's a really dark purple. That'll work. It probably looks blue to you, but it's purple. I promise. Get that in there. I'm going to get some more nice dots. I'm going to repeat these. Remember, I'm playing around too with my elements and principles art. Just want to make sure that as I'm getting these on here, that, you know, I'm playing around and getting all of my design work, etc., etc. And really I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna create a bunch of these. And I'm just kind of going in and filling this in. You know, I'm thinking about, you know, water and all these kind of connecting. And now I'm just doodling, you know, I'm just trying to add these things in here that are going to be some interesting bits of interest. You know, playing around with the idea of a bunch of nice, fun, kind of repetitive. I've got those up there, so I think I'm gonna just kind of doing these in little waves here, so that I've got some stuff filled out through there in order to get my design kind of farmed out. You know, I think over here I need something else, so I'm just gonna draw this in. I'm just gonna get some more circles in here. And maybe this one I'll just create a bunch of bumps around. You know, I'm just going in and I'm doodling. I'm thinking about, I'm gonna get a spiral in here, and then I'm gonna go in and get all the rest of my lines. And I'm just filling in with doodles as I continue to think about the things that I might want to focus on. I'm going to go in and repeat this spiral shape with the pieces coming off of it here. I always like having a bit of repetitiveness in there so that I can have that nice and balanced. I am going to go in with my F, and I'm going to thicken up these lines because I think these should be more prominent, so that I have a nice heaviness over here with the black in order to seat this corner up here down as much as the bottom. See how that's already starting to pop more? So I'm going to do the same thing up here. Make sure I've got a nice thick even line through here. And see how that automatically already started making that seat more. I can do the same thing with my lettering here. I can go in and thicken up some lines on this. I can stick to the bottom sides. Not quite like a shadow, but almost. You know, really informal, but just enough to kind of add more emphasis on here. You know, a lot of people will assume the word of grace just to, you know, super ultra religious things, but it's not always, nor is it only relative to that. It's something that's extremely important to everyone. And so being able to reframe this and put this into something that is helpful to us cognitively as we work on these pieces is something I think that's extremely valuable, and you know, I like being able to do that. Okay, I'm going to take a bit of white. I got some white paint right here, and I really just want to go in, and I want to get some nice kind of clean things in some of my bubbles here. So I'm really just going to take my white, and I'm going to touch it in some of these so that I have a really nice kind of bright spot in some of them. Not all of them, just some of them, and I'm just going to hit it right in the middle. Right in the middle, you see. Maybe you can't see very well, but I am hitting it in there nevertheless. And I'm going to go in and, you know, maybe I want to hit these guys so that we have some nice whites there. And then I can go in and I can mimic those all the way around. Same thing over here. I can mimic them. And we're just really playing around and continuing to add design elements all the way around this. Being able to use mixed media helps us do unique things that we might not have been able to do with just one. And so this is about expanding boundaries. Oh, I'm sorry, and really playing with creating something that is super interesting and, you know, again, helps us figure out and farm out, you know, some of these things that we're feeling and stretch our creative muscles so that we can be better innovative thinkers, and that helps us as well. Always a good thing in order to think in an innovative sense. So today was a really fun day playing around with art journaling, mixed media. You know, we mixed our dry media along with ink and a little bit of paint, and, you know, thinking about the ways that we view the world and view ourselves and how that can affect and impact. Remember, 20% is all that your brain can really handle of situations and of the environment. Science, y'all, science. So it really does truly matter what you focus on. So today was a really good reminder of that, and to continue to also not only stay focused on the right things, but also make sure that our emotions, etc., are in focus so that we always keep that grace amidst us, even in the worst of situations, so that we can always think the best and be the most effective and helpful to ourselves and others. It's always a pleasure to be able to create with you guys. Tuesdays are some of my favorite days because I get a little bit out of this as well. I get to weirdly chat about things because I'm an odd gal and I like talking, and I like the therapy and teaching part of art. I think it's an overlooked part of creating that we really should utilize a lot more, especially with our kiddos and ourselves, because, you know, weirdly, I think art is a wonderful framework and way to get us closer and better at being emotionally intelligent, and I think those are really good tools for all of us to have. So as always with me, there's more than just art to this art girl and our art classes, so I hope you enjoyed the prattling on. At the same time, make sure you're taking a look at our virtual art galleries. We represent artists from all over the DFW area, over 350 of them, students, fully realized professionals. In between, we have something for everyone's pocketbook, everyone's personality type, because we have such a wide diversity of pieces in our galleries. And please make sure you're also taking a look at our YouTube page, donation links. You know, one of the easy ways to help support, if you haven't hit subscribe on this page, please make sure you do. That's an easy way to support a place like us that works so hard to bring community and creativity to everyone in DFW area and beyond. And I will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Tomorrow is Wednesday, Wacky Wednesday. We're going to work on a little project, and then we're going to get into our weekend activities at ArtCo. Remember, we've got events in the yard going on this weekend. Take a look at our ticketing and our schedule to see what times we have and what events we have going on. Please make sure you purchase a ticket and come try out our 15,000 square foot backyard. We have so much space to keep y'all socially distanced. Plus, we'll have some artists in the backyard, and we have a fantastic show of all the panels that have gone up over Deep Ellum businesses. Those are currently up and on display in our backyard, continuing to work to benefit community even through these times. So again, thank you guys for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time.